And we're live. What's up, Kingdom of Rock? This is Matt Gibson again. It is April 10th, 2020, and I don't even know what day of the week it is. Can anybody help me?
Yeah. I think it's impressive that you even know that is April 10th. That's pretty impressive.
I just looked at my little calendar clock down there on my computer, but it doesn't say what day of the week it is.
Saturday.
It's Saturday.
Saturday.
Okay. Well, that's always a good day. Every day is that day.
Exactly.
So
unless you don't play a Stratocaster, which leaves me out. So this is not my day.
Yeah.
No, we are not playing Stratocaster anymore. And you, Matt?
I do not.
ESPs. Yep. But
Mike, we're not cool enough.
Mike, are you going to keep that same guitar in the background the whole time? Is that the new product placement right there?
I don't think so. No one's paying me to have it there. It just happens to be here so I can grab it whenever I need to see how crappy I am at my major scales.
I'm starting to kind of look at that guitar like a girlfriend that I need to try to steal from you.
What?
Very nice, actually.
Yeah. Here. Did you want it? I'll shove it through the thing.
Yeah. Here, wait.
You got it. Yeah.
You know, that would be super cool if you could figure, like, if you had another one of those here, and you could pretend like you're giving it to me, and I would like accept it. That'd be cool. Maybe you could get the guy that made that to give me one, so we could do that sometime.
I will see what I can do about that.
So today we
got off on a tangent here. Sorry, Kingdom of Rock. Wow. Okay.
We're just ignoring our guests. Me and Mike are sitting here cutting up.
Yeah. So
today we have the amazing Daniele Gottardo and Gretchen Menn from Zepparella, and we're here to talk about anything except for the COVID-19 crisis.
Awesome.
Because who wants to talk about that? Is anybody tired of that yet?
I'm tired. Following the situation, because I'm Italian, and I started to follow this story much before the United States. And
you've been through it like twice.
Yeah, twice, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you have family in Italy.
Yes.
Hopefully everyone's doing well over there. Are they coming out of it?
Yeah, the last 4 or 5 days is getting much better. And finally the lockdown started to work. And
hey, Cheryl, where was your friend again that they're arresting people? Cheryl? Where was your friend that they're arresting people?
Sweden.
Oh. My wife Cheryl just said she's got a friend in Sweden, and they're actually arresting you if you're out on the streets. If you're out walking.
They were fining you $1,000. Now they're arresting.
Yeah, it started out you were fined the equivalent of $1,000, and now apparently the police are arresting you if you're out walking in Sweden.
That does not feel like a Swedish stereotype to me. Like, for some reason, maybe it's Hollywood in my mind, but I don't see that as like police state Sweden. You know? That's scary. Well, hell, here in LA, it looks like they're going to start doing stuff like that sometime.
Well, I just don't know how. We remember when we interviewed who was the person that was living in China, Matt?
Oh, Dave Reffitt.
Yeah, because he had some kind of a code on his phone where the authorities would decide whether you were able to go out or not.
They give you a QR code in China. And so like you get, to go to the grocery store, you have to get your phone scanned to see if you're symptom free or not. They have like a certification. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, although we're not supposed to talk about COVID-19, but we do, we do have to realize that yes, it has had a massively not awesome effect on musicians. And Gretchen, I know that you gig a crap ton with Zepparella, so that must have been quite a business, situation to have to all of a sudden have massive gigs canceled, right?
Yeah, well, I had stuff canceled from my independent stuff and Zepparella. Like I was going to be in Germany for a week. And I had it was going to be a really, really busy couple months. But I don't know. It's like, I kind of feel like I couldn't be luckier in terms of my quarantine situation. I mean, how many people get to be locked up with their best friend who's also their guitar hero, who's also their husband, you know? So
I'm talking about Ferdinand,
I'm talking about the cat. Yeah.
The cat.
I mean, as much as I would say that there's certainly some financial stress around that, the wonderful thing is that what I'm getting is time that I never otherwise have. And so creatively, it's actually been, there has been an upside to it for sure.
So we're going to come back to you guys in 6 months if this lockdown hasn't come out, and see if you guys have the same story.
What?
Living together in the same space. You'd be like, day 742. He never stops playing his guitar. You know, like, well, I don't know. That's got to be like tough. Like it'll be good and then it'll be bad. You know.
Actually, that is an interesting point. It's like, do you guys have to apportion practice time? I mean, do you kind of get in each other's way when you're both practicing at the same time, or how does that work out?
No.
Oh yeah, headphones.
No, we're actually. I mean, both of us are pretty much playing throughout the day. Like there's really, we just take breaks for food and exercise and stuff like that. But if I'm, say, playing, pretty much anytime that either of us are playing, we're playing with headphones. If I'm playing classical guitar, I'll usually just ask him and say, are you working on something where the classical guitar is going to be okay? Or maybe he'll be teaching a lesson in the next room. Or if, say, I'm like trying out a new amp or new pedals where I have to have a little bit of volume, I'll do it when he's like out, you know, when he's exercising. So it's pretty easy to share the space. You know, headphones are a great invention.
Yeah, that's true, but it is interesting. You do have to kind of schedule, you know, so you're not like all of a sudden hitting the big fuzz pedal through your amp when he's trying to teach a lesson. So there is some scheduling that has to be done, right?
Yeah.
Not much though. I mean, we've never actually had a problem with it. And
so now sometimes we practice also in the same room with headphones, and it works. Often you are playing a lot of guitar in this period. When I'm not playing a lot in this period, I'm more doing other stuff related with music, and then usually we play finally together in the night, right?
Yeah. We do a fair amount of playing. We probably play together for at least an hour a day.
Yeah. With the headphones off.
Recently, not so much, but quietly.
It's late.
So, like, I know from my perspective, having somebody in the same space that you can jam with and improvise with, seems like that would be a lot of fun. Do you guys do that much?
Every night almost.
Yeah. In the night, we are mostly working on our improvisational skills. Is correct in English?
Yes.
In the evening, we talk. We pick a song that are fun to improvise over, and we can use the same structure also for 3 weeks, 1 month or so. Every day we get through solutions. We know we have fun with some wine or Booker's.
I got him on Booker's bourbon recently. He normally he's like a Aperol spritz kind of guy.
Long Island.
Yeah, Long Island iced tea. So usually we'll have a drink and just practice improvising for, you know, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. And
I got kind of lost on the alcohol scene. We were talking about drinking, I guess, right? Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Booker's what?
During
Bourbon.
During the improvisation.
Bourbon. Okay, I got it.
It means it's just part of the winding down. You know, once we're done with all of our kind of album work and work on the
got it.
We're like, okay, we're gonna chill out now and have a musical nightcap.
So do you guys work on the ugly parts of the music business together, like all the marketing and all the business, or do you guys share that, or do you have your own teams or your own? How do you guys?
It is no.
We share especially feelings right about that.
Feelings of being totally inept and disinterested in it.
No, we share our feelings and share suggestions.
But you guys, to be fair, I haven't checked it out lately, so I may be stepping on my foot here. But you've done a fair amount of videos, some humorous, some instructional. I mean, you seem to have your act together as far as putting content out there that lets people know about what you guys are doing. Correct?
Yeah, normal. I mean, that's just we do help each other with that. Like, usually we both have stuff to do, like for either various companies we work with or just for our own, interests, or his Patreon page where he does lessons. So we take turns filming and recording each other.
Yeah. We engineer each other.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, to that note, Gretchen, I know that you've got a lot of endorsement deals. Are a lot of the companies during this lockdown still asking you for content, for you to film lessons, for you to try their stuff? How's that going?
Yeah. I mean, everybody's cool. I work with companies I like a lot, and so I think a lot of people are doing more stuff online now, and so they're kind of like, oh gosh, like let's get some stuff going. And fortunately, it's a good time for everybody. So it's like, I'm not gigging, I can do that video. So, and I always try to make it be something that's interesting for me to do. There are people who are really good at just like kind of going through and doing gear reviews. For me, I just like to use the gear for to showcase it with music, because I'm not really comfortable. I don't know. I never want to sound like an infomercial, and I feel like I would. Some people are so good at talking about stuff where it doesn't sound like that, but I don't feel like I'm one of them.
You'd rather just play through and just get your impressions just through the music, right? I
guess so. I mean, it's not to say that I won't talk about it. I mean, you and I have done some stuff together.
Yeah, true.
But I think I'm most comfortable just finding something that I feel like a tone that I like, a sound that I like, and saying, just playing, letting the music speak for itself. I can sit there and tell everybody how much I like it, but do they care? They'd rather just hear how it sounds.
Yeah. Well, I guess it was more from the position of the manufacturer, who typically they're used to like kind of owning and controlling that, like when you went to Mesa Boogie, it was their studio, their filming, right, blah blah blah. But now if they wanted you to film a video now, they kind of don't have control of that. You're going to film it right where you are now, or what not that it wouldn't be good, but they've kind of lost a little bit of control. Has anybody ever discussed that with you, or are they worried about it, or are they just happy to get content out? They really don't care.
I don't know. I mean, if I think before I do anything, especially if it's something where there's any sort of financial exchange, a lot of times I won't do a video for something that I don't like and that I don't play or wouldn't play. And so I think really what it comes down to is a lot of pre-planning and a lot of trying to find out what they're hoping to achieve from it within the context of what I feel like I could do, or have a decent shot of doing okay with. So,
yeah, she loves Matt. All of a sudden, she wants to be in Matt's face every time we do these.
Oh,
it's the hair.
Yeah,
it's big like Fabian.
Or I remind her of her mother or something. So let me ask Daniele, you I was listening to some of your guitar playing, and honestly I hadn't heard any of your music before today, and I'm a little bit behind in the who's the latest guitar hero, but you kind of got tapped on the shoulder by some guitar greats recently, giving you some props for your playing. Steve Vai, for example, he was just on the show, and I was listening to your guitar playing, and I kind of felt like it was like if Alan Holdsworth and Steve Vai were able to have a child.
Yeah, but I don't know why Steve never told me that. I know it's true, but he's not. How happens? How he's very quiet about that still. I hope
He's
He's
just trying to keep it under the table, maybe. I don't know.
It's not the paper, but it's true. It's true. It's not an impression that you had. It's like that.
But yeah, you definitely got this really this nice hybrid kind of between fusion and jazz fusion and like rock guitar. It's really interesting and definitely technically complex, very brainy, but tasty at the same time. So I definitely was enjoying listening to your playing today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So when somebody like Steve Vai says, "Hey," because he basically did this to you, Daniele. He goes, "Yeah, Daniele Gottardo is one of my favorite guitar players, composers at the moment." I forgot what exactly he said, but what does that kind of do for you? Do all of a sudden your social followers shoot through the roof, or do all of a sudden you find yourself selling $1 trillion worth of CDs? I mean, what was the basic effect of someone on Steve Vai's level saying that you're one of their favorite people?
Okay, but for me, first it was a great compliment, and it was especially something that helped me to dig even deeper to my music development. How I can say, it helps me to trust in myself more in terms of what I was doing at the time. The first time he came, it was like when he listened to my last solo album in 2014, that was in mid 2014. Now I'm working on a new one. It was taking 5 years of production, and but I hope it will be ready soon. But first was this. The second about for sure it helps me to gain more credibility and respect through the guitar community, and it helps also in terms of sale of the album for sure. Now that I'm thinking about what you said, Michael, I remember in a week it really helps also in that times, but mostly it helps for sure to gain recognition and more also respect also from people that before was a little bit how I can say tepid. Yes, yeah, also that, but it's up to me to maintain that how I can say that
distinction,
that credibility. In fact, I'm working on an album and I try to do as better as possible, but it's taking eternity. But it's another story. But definitely, it was I didn't expect that level of support from him. Wasn't respectful, because you can like somebody, but he was very incredibly supportive several years or so up to these days, and then it really means a tremendous amount for me. Also because, like you said, Matt, about my style, for sure his influence musically was very important for my development. Guitar playing, especially in the first period of my development, that was more rock oriented. Then I moved from a completely different kind of listening. But what I try is to mix all my influence.
Well, it's interesting because Matt and I have found this kind of theme running through for a bunch of the guitar players that we've interviewed, and that's that faith in yourself thing. So it's interesting. I mean, I look at you with your talents and your bag of tricks and your techniques and go, how can that guy ever doubt himself, But it is interesting that, Steve kind of saying, yeah, okay, you're cool, that had an impact on your own belief in yourself. Because Matt, there's been a couple of guitarists who've mentioned that throughout this, right?
Yeah, I think Well, even Oz, we just had Andy Timmons and Oz Fox on yesterday, and Oz is a big Andy Timmons fan. I mean, he's like almost like a kid about it. Like when he found out, we do this meetup on Sundays for all the guests of the show, and you guys are welcome to come to this. Yep. It's on Zoom. And so Oz was there, and we were talking about it, and he was like, I was like, yeah, we're going to get Andy Timmons on here soon, I think. And he was like, man, I'd really like to could I get on that episode? And I was like, sure, And so I emailed Andy, and he was available, and got him and Oz together, and Oz was really inspired by that, And so you think like contemporaries, they're kind of from the same age, Danger, Striper, but like Andy's kind of taken a different turn with his career. He's more of that super tasteful, just beautiful playing type guitarist, almost from the, kind of from the Beatlesque type thing, but add a little bit of shred to it, And then Oz is just a straight up, just rip your face off, hard rock guitarist, super kind of intense. I mean, he plays all the right notes, So it's kind of like, it's interesting to see how everybody is kind of like inspired by everyone in the community in one way or another, and we all kind of steal or learn from each other, however you want to call it. And, it's I really like the guitar community. I don't know. Do drummers and bass players and keyboard players and singers have that same thing? I don't know. But
I got to tell you, working for Bass Player magazine and now working for Modern Drummer, it's like, those communities are a lot closer than the guitar community and a lot more supportive than each other.
We just steal from each other.
So if you like the guitar community now, maybe you should take up the bass and get into that one, because it's super nurturing. Oh, by the way, Daniele, Clem is telling you to finish your damn album. By the way,
Clem.
Yeah, Clem's finish it. Finish it.
Let's talk. Let's speak to everyone here that's in the comments. Richie Hayden, how's it going? On Facebook, Steve Walton on Facebook, Rod DeGeorge on Facebook. Well, everyone's on Facebook today. Steve Walton, Clementine Drum, actually Zepparella's drummer, and Angela Grant, great guitar player. How's it going? Yeah. Angela said hi, Gretchen.
Hey, Angela.
And so yeah, and if you guys are out there on Twitter watching today, do us a favor and retweet the broadcast to your friends and let everybody know, and share on Facebook for us. We're trying to get the word out that we're doing this show on a regular basis, and it's growing quickly. So thank you for everybody that's tuning in today. And now back to our regularly scheduled program.
But to not stick a finger in Daniele or Gretchen's arms, elbows, whatever we can do these days. The music that both of you guys produce is incredibly complex. So it's not like, it's putting out a T-Rex single every 6 months. I mean, maybe years is excessive, but it's not like, this is doing a pop record. So maybe, Gretchen, since, we worked together on your Abandon All Hope record, maybe you could tell the community what are some of the things that really went into how long that you needed to take for that album before you were happy with it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, when you presented the concept to me, I loved it immediately. But I know that when you're talking about doing a concept album, and a concept album based on something as massive as The Inferno by Dante, that it's not, and I mean, not to say that I ever approached anything as like, oh, this is just a rock album or anything, but right away I knew I was going to have to grow before I could do the album. And then I would probably learn a lot doing it as well. So for me, that consisted of actually signing up for composition lessons. Again, I studied music in college, but working with a teacher of composition, studying 16th, 18th century counterpoint, working on orchestration, taking courses on orchestration, learning to write credibly for instruments that were not my own. I think a very common thing that guitar players will do is they'll be like, oh, okay, I can play this on guitar. I'll just put this line on violin, but it doesn't necessarily mean things are going to translate to be at home on that instrument. You're not going to get necessarily credible or decent performances versus if you just spend a little bit of time getting to know how to write better for that. That meant also a lot of score study, like getting whatever Ravel string quartets or Beethoven string quartets or Shostakovich string quartets and seeing how they're composed. Mozart string quartets, of course, Haydn string quartets, and really looking and seeing what are things that are idiomatically good for different instruments, like viola and cello too. So there was all of that. There was reading the Inferno twice, listening to lectures on it, and then coming up with the concept for composing differently. So rather than just doing what I had done previously, which is picking up my guitar, noodling around, finding ideas, saying, oh, that's interesting, or that's pretty, or that's cool, and then running with it, of having this over-governing concept of how do I make limbo sound like limbo? And if Western tonal music can be reduced to the concept of tension and release, if the very concept of limbo is that there's no release from that tension, how does it still feel like a piece of music that went somewhere? So a lot of problem solving too, in order to make the music always serve the concept. And then pushing myself as a guitar player to do things that were difficult, things that were outside of my technical capacities when I learned them. And so I shed it until I could play them. So lots of stuff.
That's a lot.
Steve was talking about, Vi was talking about how at different points in his life, especially in the early days, he would just get obsessed with like learning how to play things. And then it was almost like a drug whenever he like, whatever he would imagine in his mind, he was like, I'm going to learn how to play this. Mm-hmm. And when he got it, he just felt so good that he just wanted to keep doing it over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. Do you guys find that to be true with your learning styles on your instruments? Like, is it do you go like, are you more self-learning, or I know, Gretchen, you were saying you took some classes and everything. Like, how do you decide whether or not to wing it on YouTube versus take maybe a more formal class on how to do something or read a book or whatever?
No.
I think it was to both of us. You want to?
I can understand that. I'm sorry. You say yours, and
okay.
Then I mine.
I think the learning comes from everywhere. I do have a degree in music, but I feel like that was just the beginning of my learning process. So every day I'll watch YouTube videos like this Orchestration Online. This guy, Thomas Goss, is an amazing teacher. He's got really fascinating videos. There's stuff that I'll watch on Counterpoint. But then I've got tons of books and scores and stuff that I read as well. So I kind of feel like just being as much of a sponge as possible is something that keeps you, challenged and learning and interested. And in terms of what you said about the technique and the really grinding on the technique, as much as there's a part of me that would love to be excited to sit down with a metronome for hours and hours and hours, I can't do that unless it's in furtherance. I shouldn't say I can't. I'm not as interested in doing that unless it's in furtherance of something creative. So the idea of just saying, here's an exercise that I found that somebody put out there, I'm much more inclined to say, what's the exercise? Okay, can I take something from that inspires me conceptually, write something of my own, and then actually get music out of the deal? So I'll shed my ass off on something if it's a piece of music that I want to play. But if it's just like, here's this alternate picking kind of, or sweep picking or whatever exercise, I move away from that really quickly. It's got to be in furtherance of something that's creative, at least for me.
Yeah.
And Matt, you were mentioning YouTube.
Yeah.
From the place to study material from YouTube, right? Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think on YouTube there is a huge amount of great information from every kind of subject, right? The risk is that is not organized, is not in order. You need to be able to put all the information you need in a way that can be digestible. Otherwise, you can be overwhelmed with a huge amount of information, for instance, guitar stuff oriented, for instance, but then in the end of the day, as a result, being able to digest a very little amount because you throw up too many stuff, right? Makes sense a little bit. Then, fortunately, I started to study guitar years before YouTube was out. Okay. And then I did a music school where I was able to have a little bit of organization, okay, of the material.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the end of the day, that was very helpful for have that frame of mind. But in the end of the day, most of the stuff I studied by myself up to this day. Maybe I'm studying more now than the beginning. In fact, I developed what you said. What you said. I have a counterpoint addiction. I have a counterpoint addiction now that I need to study all the time. Otherwise, I get crazy.
He discovered I had a counterpoint book that he hadn't seen or heard of, and it was like this,
I got mad, upset.
You got upset.
She's hiding me books.
It's like hiding the snacks in the house.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, what's this counterpoint book? It's been on the shelf. Like,
have you been keeping this from me?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it was.
Things that guitar player couples fight over.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's funny.
Yeah. I feel like that's really the source of our conflict is counterpoint.
Counterpoint
issues.
is a problem for us. There's a lot of rules, depending about the epoch.
Yeah, 16th versus 18th century.
Yeah, very different styles. Like to argue about is Elvis better than Metallica, kind of, because the style and the language is still a rock, but it's different. Mm. And we argue about this stuff. What is correct? What is correct? Who knows?
Well, also another.
So this is what passes for fun in the Gottardo Menn house. It's like having the musical debates back and forth.
Well, that versus a fixed versus movable dough.
That is another big problem recently.
Yeah, we've been working on our sight singing, which is hilarious to us and would be very distressing to anybody else to hear.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the source of our conflict. So, pretty good.
Fortunately. Well, I just try to keep the dogs from fighting, basically.
So, Gretchen, what are you working on currently? Musical projects? I know with the everybody's at home doing things right now. Are you recording new music right now? Writing new music?
Yeah, lots actually. Just a couple of days ago, we finished pre-production on a brand new piece I'm working on for classical guitar. And then started another one this week, and actually just yesterday started something that I'm trying to collaborate. So my bass player Anna Pfeiffer and my drummer Thomas Perry for my original trio, we said hi on Zoom last week, and we're missing each other. I get along great with all my bandmates in both bands, and we decided, okay, let's start writing some ideas. So I had a deadline of last night, and day before yesterday, I started coming up with ideas. So I'm excited about that. It's something different from what I've worked on. So yeah, writing and loving it.
Do you find we kind of talked about this yesterday with Andy Timmons? Do you find that deadlines are necessary to make real progress as an artist, or do you work better without a deadline?
I definitely find deadlines motivating. But I think because a lot of times we can underestimate our ability on what we can do if we really focus. And it sounds crazy to think, okay, could I come up with a rough draft of a brand new piece of instrumental music too? Like there's some people like, oh, I wrote that in 15 minutes. That's not me at all. But on the other hand, can I sit down and in an hour or two come up with enough material that I could send to a bass player and drummer and actually have it be a good starting place. A week ago, I would have been like, no way, not happening. Well, as of last night, I can be like, yeah, I guess so. That's crazy. So deadlines challenge you to push yourself, and by pushing yourself is the only way you can know what your capacities are and to grow those capacities.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to send my first track ever to a producer and a drummer. They're gonna start making, like, I have a bunch of demos. I retired from the military back in 2012 and moved here to LA to kind of try to make it in the music business at age 49. So I'm sending my first track off to the producer, and I'm finding that, like, he's like, well, when are you going to get it to me by? And I'm like, oh, let's see, a week. No, 2 weeks from now. No, maybe it'll be 3 weeks. And then I'm like, no, you got to set like a deadline, like an unreasonable deadline for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's, maybe I should have it to him by Sunday.
Yep.
You know, and so, okay, that's it. A public, I'm going to have the track to my producer on Sunday. So
yeah, it's smart. Congratulations.
And you guys are going to hold me accountable to that. So
no, seriously, congratulations. It's huge. Well, and were you Air Force? Is that what I saw?
Yeah, I did 20. I went from 92 to 2012. Awesome. And so, and I was actually in Italy, Daniele, a few times. I was in Aviano over there, Pordenone, and I was in Sicily, Catania, kind of I think that's like a resort area down there in Catania, and then Naples. So I've definitely eaten my way through Italy and drank my way through Italy. Lots of Sambuca.
Sambuca, great. Yeah. And limoncino, you know?
No, what's
limoncello? You know that?
Limoncello.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yes.
Especially if it is on homemade. If you go someplace, you can find some homemade.
I remember I had an experience in Italy, and I ordered this stuff off the menu, and it was black spaghetti. And I was like, well, that sounds interesting. I'm just gonna order the black spaghetti. And so I get the food, and I'm eating it, and it's kind of fishy tasting. And I was like, yeah. And the guy, I was like, what's in this to make it black? And he's like, sepia. And I'm like, what's that? He's like, squid ink. And I'm like, oh. And for some reason, after he told me that, I was like, man, this is just not any good anymore, It just didn't.
I don't like that dish, but I know if it's done well, it can be very interesting. But I'm not super into fish. Nero di sepia, yeah. It's funny, the name is funny.
Now, I do like the pasta with the little tiny clams in it, the little tiny seashells, where you have to break them apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fruit of the sea, or they would call it.
Vongole.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
Or Collo at the rock, at the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that.
So, Mike, have you ever been to Italy?
Yes.
What's your favorite? What was your favorite Italian food?
Well, although I am part Italian, I'm just not really much of a gourmand. I mean, simple spaghetti, or with just not meat sauce, of course. It's just spaghetti and oil typically. I mean, I'm the wrong guy to ask about gourmet stuff.
Although I will say, like, when I was in the military, I ordered pizza, and I'm like, what is this? This is not pizza. This is just like bread and cheese. Like in Italy, pizza is it's not like New York pizza. It was good, but it was not the same, like what we think of as Americans as pizza, So
because the Italians didn't invent pizza. That was somebody else.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
What?
Wait, the Italians didn't invent pizza?
Technically, yes, for what I know.
Yeah. Oh, you mean for the I thought pizza was invented somewhere else. Maybe somebody in the comments can tell us.
Yeah, somebody go research. Where was pizza invented? We need to find this out before the end of the broadcast.
That you had a bad experience that I had also in the United States the first time when you read the menu and you are not completely sure about what you are getting, and you can get something that
isn't what you expect.
Exactly. And I had this experience so many times. The first times I was in the United States, and then it's not a very happy situation. Like for the spaghetti nero di sepia. But next time you need to have somebody that helps you with the translation, and I'm sure it will be the pizza. Maybe will be also better because only cheese. Maybe it was pizza quattro formaggi.
Right.
It sounds like the pizza that has only cheese, like the grilled cheese sandwich Italian version of the pizza with different cheese. We have that. Maybe
I take that. That'd be fine.
Now, Luigi DeVito says, "Hey, Angelinos, I'll tell you where to go get some real Neapolitan pizza." Well, why don't you hurry up and tell us, because we want some.
Not for a while.
All right.
I don't think they'll deliver to Northern California.
What? So, Mike, as far as when you worked with Gretchen, what was that experience like to get when you worked on that project with her?
Well, I didn't work musically per se with her because she had such a vast command of what she wanted to do, and because, as she mentioned earlier, because she was really exploring new creative avenues in her own work. I mean, there were these this time spans where it seemed like nothing was happening, but actually she was, kind of sequestered away learning all this arrangement stuff. But I kind of came in the beginning with, does this concept interesting to you? And it was so awesome that she bought into it. And then she went away and, developed the material. And then I don't know how much Daniele was helping as during the composition process. Daniele and I kind of came back during the arrangement for Daniele, and then arrangement and mixing for Daniele and I. So when the mixes started coming back, I did give a lot of feedback about making things more cinematic, because I thought that the music deserved that. But it was really all Gretchen.
I haven't heard the record. Where do I go find that project?
It will blow your mind. You should get that.
Okay, I'm a bad researcher.
There's tracks on YouTube too.
I'll send you a link.
What's it called?
I'll send you a link. It's called Abandon All Hope.
Abandon All Hope. Okay, cool. And we'll share that out to all the Kingdom of Rock listeners out there.
But I mean, it was an amazing journey for me, and I'm so glad that Gretchen, brought me along for the ride, so to speak, because when you're editor of a guitar magazine, you hear so much of the same stuff all the time. And I don't mean to be a dick about it, but because to me, really, anybody who plays the guitar is a hero to me. Even if you're bad at it, if you're playing guitar, thank you. Let's get guitar music out there. But I was at a point when Gretchen and I started discussing this, where it's like, I'm tired of hearing the same old instrumental guitar records over and over and over and over and over. They're on my desk. It's like I can't tell one from the other. And my initial kind of push point for her was like, well, don't do what everybody else does. But I mean, as I've said before, when she got into this arrangement and composition thing, I mean, it brought forth an album that was, I mean, you have to listen to it, Matt. It's pretty much unlike anything you've ever heard. I mean, it's not the only thing that's done that way, but her approach and bringing guitar into instrumental guitar into a venue that's not heard a lot was really exciting for me, because I could listen when these mixes started coming back. It was like, oh, finally, somebody's doing something that doesn't sound like everybody else. So I was really jazzed about it.
Yeah, sold. I'm gonna go listen to that as soon as we get done. In fact, you know what? Why don't you guys talk for a little bit? I'll be right back. No.
You're gonna listen to it now.
Yeah, I come back. It's like yes.
Well,
But that's kind of how it was, right, Gretchen? I mean, you were really. I mean, I was just kind of the dude by the by the side of the stage, just trying to make sure everybody was happy, you know.
Oh no, you underplay the importance of your role so much. I wouldn't have done that if you hadn't presented it to me. You know, like I would say I credit you as much as my classical guitar teacher and as much as this guy here for probably being the three most important creative just aspects of my musical growth. If you hadn't put that idea in front of me, I wouldn't have done a lot of the stuff that I did. I mean, at the end of the day, I've never been more grateful for having something handed to me that I recognized was a very dear concept to you, and I just didn't want to mess it up, you know. So I thank you enormously for the opportunity to take your concept and do what I could with it.
Well, thanks for that, because there was no way I was going to do it. So thank you for grabbing it and running off and doing something awesome with it.
So Daniele, what's the next new thing in guitar? Like as far as innovation in playing and in composition, what do you think's the next new horizon for guitar music?
It's hard to tell because there is a huge amount of guitar player amazing in those days in a lot of different musical style. I like to check to not get too much focus in only one language in musical style. Then I listen to very old guitar player that to me sounds actual, modern, but at the same time then I want to say I listen to jazz players, to math rock players, to everything. And there is also Joe Satriani say, I remember reading an interview say that is the guitar in those days is taking every direction. And I think it's very exciting. That is very difficult to answer your question, but I think the important things, as Michael says, keep playing, and the guitar is not anymore in the mainstream, right? Still in those days, but there is a huge amount of players that are incredible, and it's up to we have the responsibility to put out interesting music, right? And then I think there is people that is doing that, but it's not easy. But I'm not able to reply clearly to your question. But I think the potential is there everywhere.
Well, I mean, you've explored. I mean, for you, a lot of your music is definitely about composition, and I get that. But you've also done some interesting tones and with technology now, I mean, a guitar can sound like anything. Do you think that's going to be the next wave of just? And this is a question for both of you. That sounds are going to evolve to a point where it gets away from even being a guitar, but it's evocative and played with the fingers, or is that a bad thing because the guitar should always sound like the guitar? So how do you feel technology actually informs the sound of how you use the guitar as a tool to create your music?
I say my time. Yeah. To me, I'm a traditionalist in terms of guitar tone. To me, I like to be very explorative in terms of musical contents. It can be specific elements like harmony. We mentioned counterpoint, compositional concept, but in terms of the tone. To me, the guitar needs to sound like the strings. To me, the guitar makes sense when it's the guitar. I don't like synth guitars, thief stuff. For instance, because get away the how I can say, help me.
Essential qualities.
Quality. But at the same time, like if we hear to some modern contemporary metal of those days, like Gent, where the guitars is very processed, and it sounds also this kind of metal, contemporary metal, while the drum is fake, the guitar is completely processed. Everything is hyper edited. But what's happened that it, like Michael said, sometimes the guitar is more close to a electronic music in terms of timbre, in terms of timbre, and this is very interesting to me and is exciting. Then, in the end of the day, is the music that needs to speak from itself, because the instrument is an instrument, it is not the goal. I think finding a good balance is not easy. From my point of view, what I try to do, my research of the last 10 years, is to use the guitar also as an instrument that doesn't sound often like a guitar, but to me, my inspiration is a woodwind instrument, is a clarinet, is a bassoon, and this is a way to develop the instrument some way. And what about you, Gretchen, Menn? What is your point of view about the guitar?
Yeah, Matt and I will just go get some tea, you guys.
Yeah, you just finished the interview. We're gonna go listen to that album right now.
Yeah, because the question was I want to, but we want to know obviously your point of view.
Yeah. Yes. So Gretchen, Menn, tell us.
Gretchen, Menn, sorry.
I think the wonderful thing about music is it doesn't need to be dogmatic. Anything that you seek to do with the guitar, I think, like, go for it. And that I think staying open-minded, creative is great. And yet I think for individual players, I think it's important to figure out, to have a nice balance between being able to be inspired by your contemporaries or your, the people who came before, or even, anyone, while at the same time trying to retain what is unique and individual to you, and then really going in that direction. I have to say, I'm a little bit more of a traditionalist as well. I kind of like guitars to sound like guitars. But you know what? I can plug into a pedal tomorrow, and then I'll change my mind tomorrow. So I think it's all a question of if you, as long as it serves a creative purpose, for me, it's good. And that can always change. And I think that the wonderful thing, as any person is constantly in a state of change and development, I think our music should reflect that. And I think it's really important not to have music, even though it maybe will be in the habit of playing, the habit of practicing, the habit of writing, to not have it become perfunctory. So to allow our music and our practice and our interests and our creative directions be always reevaluated with what is current and relevant to us. So if that means that one day you wake up and you want your guitar to sound like a synthesizer, that's great. I mean, to me, that's one of the things that's so fantastic about Jeff. He's always exploring, and therefore he's always relevant, at least, rather than being entrenched in one iteration of himself or in music. It's like, he's like, okay, techno, let's see how this factors in. He's such an artist of his time, and that time is changing. So I think it is important to retain that sense of identity while also allowing yourself the flexibility to be influenced and to grow.
Have you guys seen that video where you guys know who Jared Dines is? The guitar, he's a YouTuber.
Okay,
he's a metal YouTuber. Okay, he made a video, and I'll put it up in the community, where it was guitar player versus computer. Oh. And so he had his engineer. He's like, yeah, man, I'm here ready to track some guitar. And his engineer is like, why? I got the computer right here. And he's like, what? And he's like, no. And so they had a duel. between him playing a guitar solo on a computer keyboard versus, you know, the guy, and it was comparable. And it kind of hurt my feelings as a guitar player a little bit, you know? And I was like, man, that's, you know, but it's not, it doesn't have that same tonal transparency and expression that you're going to get when you're playing through, you know, kind of a tube amp with a little bit of crunch on it, and it just has a really expressive kind of tone where it just right before it starts to break up and everything. It's hard to make that tone on like a process instrument, you know. At least I haven't been able to do that, but what do you guys?
I'm gonna have this is gonna be a bad. Well, first off, Mayasa has just busted me for wearing my pajamas. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you had chickens on your pants, Michael.
These are the Avengers, Captain America, of course.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So, sorry about that.
Wearing jeans. Yeah. I'm like, who wears jeans in like lockdown?
Well,
I should be wearing jeans in lockdown, but I have the Avengers, shorts. So why would I?
Yoga pants.
But I mean, I forget what year it was, but I went to see Frankie Goes to Hollywood at the Kabuki Theater in San Francisco. It used to be a rock club. Now it's a movie theater. And there was this kid who was like a solo artist who did one of the first, you know, kind of looping guitar things. And he was a keyboardist. And I mean, the Frankie Goes to Hollywood audience were just throwing their drinks at the poor guy. And he was just slaughtered. And then, ironically, he came into my studio in San Francisco to do some work. And he had a little Casio keyboard, and he put it through a Marshall stack. And I was absolutely floored at how much it sounded like one of the best hard rock metal records I'd ever heard. I mean, little tiny keyboard, and it was like, there's no way that it should have worked. Now, sadly, this kid has probably disappeared and no one ever heard of him. But that's when I kind of went, wow, guitar players better watch themselves. You know?
I have this theory, and I'm going to explore this into some of my future compositions, where you can make an entire record out of anything. Like you can make a song, like with today's, like if you have a microphone and some plugins, you could use anything you wanted to make an entire record. You don't need a guitar, you don't need a drum kit. You can actually program drums by putting this in front of a microphone and just going.
Well, I mean, it harkens back to the 60s where, you know, Brian Wilson was using cardboard boxes and pencils and whatever was lying around as drum kits. You know, he didn't always have Hal Blaine playing a kit. Sometimes he was just, you know, hitting a box. You know? It's
the spirit of the person that's making the music. That's what I believe. It's the intensity of the spirit making the music, and the emotional sensitivity of the person making the music, and of course the producer also.
Well, I got to ask Daniele and Gretchen, you guys aren't planning on doing any coffee cup records in the future, are you? Though?
I was planning on doing one based on like cats howling and, you know.
Mike's got some people that might want to be in your band. They're metal screamers. They're in the background.
The dogs have been very quiet today, by the way.
This is actually maybe the first interview I've gotten through so far without a cat.
They are sleeping.
It's their sleeping time of day. But no, I mean, I think the point is interesting, you know, about coffee cup records or whatever. I think what it all comes down to is how do you want to spend your creative time? And that's what's so cool about music, is that music can be as diverse as we are individuals, you know? And so for some people, like my natural leaning is that I'd rather study orchestration or counterpoint rather than futz with a lot of technology, but that's just me. Somebody else can have the patience and likes the interfacing with some of the minutiae technology, and that's going to lead to their creative work. So I kind of think it's great that there are so many options now for musicians. And I think the challenge is just identifying what really is your creative path, and then allowing yourself to do that, however orthodox or unorthodox it may be.
True.
Yeah, I mean, contrarian versus standard.
Mm-hmm.
Like Frank Zappa versus like Segovia.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different way of approaching music, but it's still music, and it's still
Mm-hmm.
cool, and it still is interesting and unique, and that's what makes us human, so it's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Mayasa's wondering where Ferdinand is, Gretchen.
I can go get Ferdinand. Here, let me go get him.
Okay.
And I did want to give a shout out to, I saw Brianna Alexis in there in the chat.
Was she here? Let's see.
Yep, guitar player.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Brianna.
And,
awesome guitar player.
And
super awesome guitar player, actually.
Love
Steve Walton, Terry Van Court, James Williams, Luigi DeVito.
Yeah, Steve Walton.
Steve,
I play with Steve Walton in the Surf Monster, and he is an awesome guitar player. We did tracks for. We recorded the Surf Monster record live, and it just blew me away that Steve was able to play all these tracks completely live. No overdubs, no nothing. It was unbelievable. Good job, Steve.
Big cat.
Yeah, I got him up from his nap, so he's like, "Well, now do what you."
Yeah. Well, he made an appearance. That's
he did.
That's good.
Well, I know you guys back to your practicing and fighting over counterpoint books and stuff like that. So we're gonna call it a day here at Kingdom of Rock. But I wanted to thank you, Daniele and Gretchen, for being on the show. Michael is obviously appreciate you being here. You bring a great, wonderful element to the show. And I just wanted to remind everybody that tomorrow is Saturday. Sunday at 1 p.m. we're going to have a meetup for all the guests in Zoom and Pacific Standard. And from 2 to 4 p.m., all the Kingdom of Rock community is going to meet together in Zoom. So if you just want to come out and network with other musicians and some of the people that are guests of the show may show up to that. We don't know. But it's definitely a way to kind of look after each other and help each other and see ways we can benefit by being a community together. And tomorrow we're going to have the director of artist development for EMI Records, a former director of artist development for EMI, Derek Tenbush. He became a professional poker player, and now he's running a bourbon company. But he's got quite a bit of insight. It's going to be very interesting. And I can't remember. We're going to have a local Michigan artist that's going to tell his story a little bit too tomorrow.
Chad Borgen.
Chad Borgen. That's right. Yep. So that's what's coming up on Kingdom of Rock. Daniele and Gretchen, thank you. I'm going to give everybody a quick around the horn and say your goodbyes and last words.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, an honor to be in this podcast, and we had a lot of fun, or not?
It was great. Thanks for having us, Matt. Good luck on your first single, right?
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to check out your record here as soon as
Also
I get off.
Hey, not only her, also mine.
I've been listening to your record all afternoon.
Hey, which one?
I don't, isn't that weird? That's a good point. Like when we listen to music, we don't listen to it like it's a record as much. I just put it on like Daniele Gottardo and just have been listening to all of your stuff. So I should go back.
Was maybe a kind of mixture?
Yeah, it was a mix. Yeah, it might have been. You have like 3 of them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Time.
All right. I feel bad.
No. Thank you. But I still we will send the 2 links. Right?
All right. Oh yeah. By the way, Mayasa Deeb said that we're supposed to make you set a deadline for your record so that you get it done.
Mine?
No, Daniele.
Daniele's.
The point is that I needed to go back in Italy. When? 5 years. 5 days ago. But obviously, for finishing the album, the new one that I was mentioning before, but obviously my ticket has been cancelled, and now who knows when I will be back for finish in the same studio where we mix and master your album, Abandoned Hope, and did the strings, the same album in the same studio. Sorry, but we will see. It needed to be finished in May.
It's pretty much done at this point. It's actually I mean, and you were talking about the next frontier of guitar. Like, I mean, obviously you can say how biased I am, but his album, having heard it, it's beyond words, really. It's something really special. But it's really—
you're just sort of teasing us. You're just teasing us now, Gretchen. And Daniele, I think it's kind of crappy of you to use a world crisis to delay your album. Okay.
You want Michael Molenda as an executive producer now for finishing the album in the United States.
Wait, who?
Producer.
Well, yeah. I'll make sure you finish that thing.
That's right.
Yeah,
you got to have a cigar in your mouth when you say that, Mike.
No, there's not going to be no world pandemic is going to stop you from getting this record in our hands.
That's right. That's right.
I want you like that, man.
All right, guys.
Plane tickets, Italy. What the heck?
So, Mike, closing words. I'm going to let you bring us home today.
I don't think Daniele let Gretchen get her closing words in. Actually.
Oh no.
It's okay. I was just saying your album's good. That's fine. Yeah. Well, thanks, you guys. I really appreciate you having us here, and I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy and using the time to be creative. It sure sounds like you are.
Yeah.
Michael's not making any music right now.
No,
he's just grouchy.
I never do nothing. I don't do nothing. I keep the dogs from fighting. No, but it is, well, you know me. I don't talk about what I do, Gretchen, right? I never talk about it.
No,
every time
I talk to you, I'm like, wait, you did that? You did that? Mike's like the anti-name dropper. And especially for, like, what we're so used to in the music industry of everybody like rattling. I've had like sound guys where it's like, I haven't been setting up for 3 minutes before they've like rattled off their whole resume to me. And I'm like, okay, great. But Mike's like the opposite. It's like, how many years have I known you, Mike? And every time we talk, it's like, I'll extract somehow something from you that I'm like, how come you never told me that? But that's also really charming quality.
Well,
we're going to have to interview Michael soon.
Yeah, you should.
But I won't tell you anything. I'd be the crappiest interview ever.
We're gonna have you waterboarded on camera.
But well, anyway, I know thank you, Daniele and Gretchen, for doing this. I know, and it was awesome. And as Matt alluded to, your deep knowledge of composition and arrangement. It's interesting to have that on the show, and hopefully some other guitar players and creators out there will get kind of inspired by this and pick up some arrangement books and hopefully expand their own vocabulary. So thank you for inspiring people to do better, I guess, or explore more. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
It's a great time to learn and explore. I mean, when else
is true.
The gift of this kind of time where it's like, thought you didn't have time to work on that? Yes, you do. So thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, guys.
You guys are wonderful.
Thank you so much, everybody. And we're out of here. Kingdom
Bye,
of Rock
everybody.
out.
Take care.